Hello, and welcome to Speaking of Supply Chain, where we explore trends, current events, and innovations impacting the logistics and supply chain industries. I'm your host, Ellen Wood. This is part two of my conversation with Erin Gilchrist from IntelliShift. And today we're going to be covering some things like risk liability and protection from those types of things, from accidents on the road, driverless vehicles and some of the capabilities, and a little bit about public transit and some sustainability initiatives that are capable with the intelligence that can be gleaned from fleet management.
Let's blame the guy who has all the money.
It's the deepest pockets in the situation. Let's go for that one.
This tech allows for you to say, no, here's actually exactly what happened. Here's what we were doing beforehand. Here's what happened during, and here's what happened after. So, the tech allows for that. So I know it, it seems like I'm saying, okay, you can't survive without this. Yeah, that's totally what I'm saying. Like you can't survive without safety tech. Not for long, folks. You're just like you got a roulette wheel and you're tossing your ball in there, and yeah, good luck. You're playing roulette if you're not thinking about this and at least starting to talk about it inside your organizations. Like, how do we do this? And again, I think the biggest play is um, showing your people that you care about
Yeah.
them, truly care about them enough to invest in them.
So you mentioned that pest control and a tiny fleet of 3 vehicles. What's the minimum size vehicle or fleet, I should say, vehicle number that IntelliShift can really drive value for? Because I mean, there is a cost to having this type of software available, and there is an outlay of, I assume, when we're talking about gas powered vehicles and you don't have the immediate access to the data, where you have to put in, a transponder or something to collect that data from the vehicle. There's going to be additional cost included there. At what point does it truly add value? Is that a vehicle's fleet size? Is that an
It's my
amount
favorite
of
question. I love this question. Because I love like KPIs and metrics and ROI
Exactly. There
models.
has to be an ROI for companies to get on board, because if it's only a cost, they're going to find a way to dismiss it or find a justification to pass.
Okay, I think if the roadways were really safe, this might be an argument. They're not. So it doesn't matter what size your fleet is. So IntelliShift, we can serve we have fleets as small as 2, we have fleets with thousands and thousands of vehicles. So we're here for anyone who says we want to be safe and efficient. So that's what we do. And our ROI model helps fleets to find their sweet spot based on what their challenges are. And that's like, again, we're not the only ones, but I'll just speak for myself. What we do is we show them um, the value. It's so easy to do out ahead of time because if you use statistics and vehicle operational costs and whatnot, and all these inputs go into our model, and we can show them how much they could save on fuel if they're having idling issues, how
Mhm.
much they can save on maintenance when things are maintained on time, increasing vehicle efficiency, reducing the number of stops, combining services. The list goes on. It's so much fun. I'll geek out on that for about an hour, so I'll stop. But as it relates to the safety aspect, that's the easiest part. When we can show them if they avoid, so if they're a smaller fleet, let's say they only have 3 or 4 accidents a year. If they only have one, the savings that they will achieve by reducing their accident
Mhm.
rate typically will not only pay for the technology, but allow them additional cash to use to reinvest in their business.
Mhm.
So the ROI is there. I can't think of a scenario where it wouldn't be because of the accident rates, not only inside the organizations that we're working with, but with what's happening out on the roadways today.
Mhm.
It's a scary place, and I say that as my sweet daughter is about to get her temps in like a month, and I'm thinking, no, I have 3 older kids, so been through this already, but it's been a minute. And so I think about her, by the time my daughter, who's 10 years older than this one, is going, things were different then. fast forward, and Lydia's going to be
Mhm.
getting her license. And wow, don't think for a second every possible technology that I can put in that vehicle will be in there to make sure that I can account for not only her own behavior and teaching her how to be a conscious and good and defensive driver, to helping reduce the chances of someone else not making good choices affecting her life and our lives. So
Mhm.
that tech is going
Mhm.
into Lydia's vehicle, whatever she'll be driving, and um, and I 100% know there'll be pushback. I'm counting on it. And I can
I I was gonna say I have a 15-year-old boy, so we are very, very close to that as well.
yeah, so and count on the pushback. But the pushback is good because that's a great opportunity to share what we know and to
Mhm.
help our teens understand that it's not just about them. They can be as cautious and as careful and as diligent and consistent as they want to be. It's everyone else out on the roadways that can and will put them in harm's way. And to have a heads up on that is game changing, and it's a lifesaver. Um, I've I've done a lot on distracted driving on my podcast, and I've interviewed a couple people who've lost their kids this way. And
Mhm.
man, if that isn't motivation enough for people like you and I with upcoming drivers and organizations to make the move, I can't imagine um, what is. And I think about how underreported, like I shared, that these accidents are, and that us addressing the sort of addiction to devices
Mhm.
is another aspect of distracted driving and how to deal with that in orgs. It's not something we've talked about, but I'm excited. It's a topic I want to talk about. I want to find somebody who's thinking about that cognitive stuff a little bit more inside of
Mhm.
their organization and figuring out how to we know we need the device to send down work orders, to report, we talked about DOT regulations. How do I report my hours? How do I
Absolutely.
do my vehicle inspections?
Mhm.
Heck yeah, I want a digital device to do those. I want to make sure my vehicles fit every day. So the technology is really, really good. It's about, how we socialize and train drivers to use it, the when, the how, the why,
Mm, mhm.
that can
Absolutely.
make the device be a complement to safety and not another distraction. So, really great things coming and lots of great things going on um, in this arena. Laws are passing, advocacy's happening. Um, you got the people that I interviewed doing amazing work, like the the Kiefer Foundation. So lots of great things happening. It just takes it's never going to be enough. We just need to continue down this path, and just it's a journey.
Well, and our technology is going to keep changing.
Yes.
So those distractions that didn't exist for your older children that do exist for your current up and coming driver, in 10 years, who knows what we will
Yep.
have that will be a distraction to
Yep.
us. Um, so one other question that I wanted to ask that came to mind just because we're talking about, these these drivers. What happens when we're talking about some of these driverless vehicles?
I love this too. I love this conversation too. I mean, again, not going to happen overnight, but I can tell you, I ordered a vehicle recently. It's not in yet. It's coming in like 10 days. When
Ooh.
my new vehicle arrives, it can drive itself. It can. I mean, it has
Mhm.
a level of autonomy. Vehicles have had levels of autonomy for ages.
Mhm.
Those levels of autonomy mean it can react to um, the roadways in a
Road
certain way,
conditions.
indicators,
Yeah.
signs, lines on the road, all kinds of things. We all know that that is grossly different no matter where you are. Not all roadways are fit for autonomous vehicles. Um,
Mhm.
Total autonomy, I think about, I'll speak for myself. I want to be in control of that asset. that weighs
at all
my
times.
new vehicle is gonna weigh right around 8,500 pounds. And so I know for certain that I can do this in the vehicle that I have today. Like I could, not that I've ever done this, but if I drove down a road that was 35 miles an hour and it's well marked, I could I could do this
Hmm.
probably for 30 seconds. It keeps me in the lines and then it tells me take control of the wheel.
Hmm.
Put your hands on the wheel. It knows that my hands aren't on the wheel, right? My new
Hmm.
vehicle will allow for me to not have my hands on the wheel. Will I ever do that? No, no. And hopefully it would only be in a situation where maybe I have something's happened to me, medically, physically, and the vehicle could
Exactly.
safely come to a stop. I mean, that's amazing. So autonomy has its place. And it's coming in places where it probably doesn't have its place, right? It's coming anyway. It's coming. It's my vehicle. In 10 days has things on it that, are fascinating.
You
However,
see the commercial where they're playing Queen's, "We Will Rock You," and they're clapping.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I just thought we thought of the exact same commercial, same time. But at the end of the day, autonomy serves a purpose in terms of safety
Mhm.
to help recover from situations that could be catastrophic. But in my personal, professional opinion, um, yes, it's coming. Will it be total autonomy everywhere? I don't know. You and I won't be alive for that.
Yeah. Well, but
Yeah.
and also that doesn't mean that that's the intended use of these autonomous
Mhm,
features. Like it's
mhm.
not so that you can, play along with whatever's on the radio and get the air drums and guitar going. It's meant for those situations where, you have a driver who's having a medical emergency, or, you're in conditions that are low visibility, and maybe those sensors are able to adapt and see better than the driver is, or you've got those halogen headlights oncoming, and it's very, very difficult to see in these situations. The car can help guide, but
Yeah.
that's the intent, is not to have a party while you're speeding down the road.
Right. I mean, if I need to get work done and I'm traveling and I am behind because I was at a conference, I'm taking an Uber. I have a chauffeur, right? And then I can pull up my laptop in that back seat and work away and count on someone else to get me there safely. Um, don't plan on doing that with my vehicle.
Yeah, expecting the car to do it is unrealistic.
And there's
That's
some, it's amazing. I love technology. Like I'm a total geek when it comes to technology, but I also respect it. I
Mhm.
respect the tech. I respect the roadways. I, that level of respect really comes from, managing a fleet that drives hundreds of millions of miles every year and seeing what can happen, and seeing what's possible, good and bad, um, and all the people that I've been interviewing and all the statistics that are out there. I stay on the glass half full side of things and say that all of this tech is really great when used appropriately.
Mhm.
Right? Yeah, I love the tech. Trust me.
Okay, I know I said my last question a minute ago, but you made me think of something else. Darn
Okay.
it. So
We can also talk offline as well. We just
no, no,
talk.
no. I think this is
You
I
and I
think
can
this is an
talk for a long
important
time.
one.
I have a feeling.
I think we could. But so we're talking about fleets, and you're talking about essentially, a chauffeur, public transit. What implications are there for public transit and optimizing these particular fleets that we depend on? I'm speaking from Indianapolis. So I'm in Indianapolis. It's snowy outside. It's very cold. We don't have a metro system. We only have buses. Now, these buses, we have a couple different lines of buses. We've got some, fast transit buses that have dedicated lanes. We've got regular buses that go a little bit more everywhere. We've got buses. We've got gas powered buses. But the biggest, I'd say, objection that the city and the citizenry as a whole has against these buses is that a lot of the times they're just running empty, and there's no one utilizing the transit. And I know that that's a different logistical question altogether. But when it comes to, this bus is out of service, or this bus had an accident with another vehicle on the roadway, is public transit one of the sectors that IntelliShift supports?
Yeah, we'll support anyone who's driving vehicles and wants to do safe and efficient things. I guess with public transit, um, I love what they're doing. They're doing really, really good things. They're doing propane, they're doing natural gas, they're doing electric. So environmentally, cities are taking the leap, and they can, because public transit is on prescribed routes.
Hmm.
And so it's not easy, but it is um, it's a good business case. So, when I work alongside of cities, municipalities, and government fleets all the time, and they're doing great things. They are taking advantage of the technology. They're taking advantage of I'll say alternative
Hmm.
fuels. Um,
Sure.
they're lightweighting. They're doing a lot from a sustainability standpoint, which is fantastic. And they're also doing a lot around efficiency, meaning route optimization. And I
Oh, yeah.
think it's beautiful because they're reducing their miles driven, they're reducing their impact on the environment, they're filling their, they're having more adoption, meaning I've got my capacity is increasing on the assets that I am running. So I think cities are getting better and better and better at this. One that they should, and they have to. I mean, they owe it to they owe it to
Yes,
the
they
people
do.
like me and you who live in that city to make sure that we have a sustainable place to live. But I think there's always going to be a place for public transit, trains, certainly, and some cities are already doing really really cool things. But the ones that don't even have like the trains are still doing a lot with the shuttles and the buses that they're running. So I think there'll always be a place for that, because in society there are always going to be people who live and work in areas where it doesn't make sense for them to have a vehicle. And to me, that's a good thing. The less vehicles, the better, right? It reduces
Hmm.
congestion, it reduces emissions, it's better for the environment. It's an optimal thing. It's just, I think they've been ahead of the curve even a little bit on trying sort of
Hmm.
everything in terms of alternative fuels. I love to see it. And Columbus is a smart city, so we're doing a lot of cool things here. Um, but I think for those listening out there, if you live in a city that isn't, it's your city, talk about it, get involved in helping your city be more sustainable, and having the kind of transit that people want to use, um, and reduce
Absolutely.
emissions, and just reduce the overall need for every person to own a vehicle.
Well, and I think part of that would become a function of it. If you're able to optimize on all these other levels, then maybe you're able to expand route options or expand coverage. There's only so many places. Again, it's fixed routes. You know where it goes and where it doesn't go. So if it's not going to the places where it needs to go, if it's not going to the places where the people who would use it are, or where they need to go, then it's not a beneficial public service. So, how can you optimize what you're already doing in order to enable
Yep,
growth?
absolutely.
I mean, that's
Yep,
the
and
name of
I
the
and
game.
I see cities doing that. It's just so fun. I really see them doing that today, and it's really fun. It's such a different animal than, I mean, even government fleets, cities and municipalities, totally different animal than somebody running a national service fleet.
Mhm.
But we all have a couple of things that are the same. Safety and efficiency is always going to be critical, no matter. So I think that, I think of some of the associations out there that kind of intersect all of us, like NAFA, for example.
Mhm.
That's government, it's private fleets, it's, all types of fleets coming together and sharing and collaborating on education and sourcing and technology and data sharing and benchmarking. So lots of great places to find that information out there. But again, public sectors, they're on it. I think it's fun. Yeah.
Well, I think that brings us to the end of our episode. We have talked for nearly an hour about fleet management. You are a fantastic
Yay.
evangelist.
Oh, thanks. Well, you're easy to talk to, Ellen, so there's that.
Thank you. I hope our listeners stayed with us for the whole episode. There was a lot that we covered today, and it was a fantastic discussion. I've learned so much, and I had a great time.
Likewise, thank you so much for having me. It was so much fun.
All right, listeners out there, if you have a suggestion for a topic or would like to be a guest on our show, I would love to hear from you. Please email me at podcast@mebach.com. I will call out, Erin, that is how you and your marketing team reached out to me to become a guest on this podcast. So for any of you who have heard me with this little spiel at the end of each episode, it does actually work. I check the email, I do look in there, and I do research to find out which ones our listeners might be interested in. So I hope you've enjoyed this, and it does work. Please email me at podcast@mebach.com. As always, thanks for listening to Speaking of Supply Chain. If you've enjoyed the show, please rate and review us on whatever podcast platform you prefer. We are on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. And be sure to tune in next time.